Hey guys, welcome back to my Animal Adventures YouTube channel, and today is actually Snake Saturday, and this is the day I do most of my work here in the reptile room. I thought I'd bring you along for the ride and kind of show you what my typical day looks like on a Saturday. I do most of my cleaning and organizing and kind of checking things out, so I'm going to bring you along for the ride, and let's get to work. Some would say if you are following your passion, you'll never work a day in your life, and let me tell you, working down here in the snake room, this is the highlight of my week. I love working with my animals and going through and checking everything out. And first, I want to give you a quick tour of the snake room here. There is a lot of equipment down here jammed into a really small space. So I have all my rodent racks here, these two racks, and then over here, this whole rack here is all my breeder ball python females. And then in this rack here, I actually have it completely full of hatchling ball pythons that I'm going to sell at the next show here coming up, the Reptilian Nation, in February 23rd to 24th in 2019 this year. And then over here are some of my grow outs and my males. And I actually have a couple females in here. I have a couple tubs on the bottom that are empty boa tubs. I have my frogs over here, and my frogs, they're really low maintenance. And then over here, I have my huge hatchling rack that's just kind of tucked back in the corner. It's completely empty. I actually stole the thermostat from it, and I'm actually using that on my incubator. And eggs are coming up pretty soon. So that is my whole entire reptile room. And at first glance, I would say, if you're new to the channel, you're just looking at this for the first time, you might think, wow, that's pretty daunting, all those tubs. And let me tell you, it's really not that much work because most of these animals, I mean, they're not really messy, and snakes are really low maintenance. It's pretty incredible. So the first thing I want to go through is I always check my females. We're coming up to egg laying season, and I have this one big head caramel female, and I check on her every day looking for eggs, and she does not have any eggs. So she'll be the first one to lay. And as soon as she lays eggs, I know all my other ones are not far behind. So then I'll start going through my whole rack and just kind of peeking in all the tubs every day and seeing if we have any eggs that we need to take care of. And I could tell she's going into a shed, and I always check for the humidity. And this has quite a bit of humidity underneath the top of this coconut husk substrate. As a matter of fact, when I open this tub, I can actually feel the humidity coming out of the tub, so it's plenty of humidity for that shed, so I can just leave her alone. Okay, so next up on the agenda, if you watched a video a few weeks ago, we actually started an experiment with my snakes. And actually, I have 12 holdbacks that we're going to weigh before we feed, and then weigh the rodents and kind of see the weight conversion from the rodents to the snake to see how much a snake can gain as far as weight from eating a rodent. I thought it was pretty interesting. And then actually what I did is I was kind of looking through a lot of my holdbacks, and I realized that to me a lot of them looked really overweight, and I definitely don't want to keep pounding rats into overweight snakes. So what I did is I actually gave them a week off from food, so they haven't eaten for 2 weeks, and they've hopefully they thinned out pretty good. So what I'm going to do is actually tomorrow is feeding day, and Sundays I always feed. So the day before today, on a Saturday, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go through all my holdbacks and I'm going to weigh them. So I'm going to set this camera up on a tripod, and just real quick, let's go through and check out my holdbacks, and we'll weigh each one. Okay, so typically what I do every time I pull a snake out, I actually, especially when I'm just spot cleaning, I'll pull the whole tub, and I'll actually lift up the snake, and I'll hold the snake, and then kind of spot clean with one hand and change the water. And that way it really gives the snake a chance to get out of the tub and to really be handled. And this is actually a bamboo pinstripe male, a really beautiful snake. And so this is my balance over here, my scale. And it's actually what they call an I-5500. It's a fantastic scale. A lot of people have asked me where I actually got that scale. I got it on Amazon. And what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description below underneath this video, so you can go right to Amazon if you're interested in checking out that scale. But the thing I really like about it, it's really fast, really accurate. And when you put the snake in there, it actually illuminates, which is really cool. Then you can actually see. This one happens to be 322.7 grams. So here is my male scaleless head, 50% het caramel albino. Really good looking snake. Looks kind of like a normal, but the scaleless head really makes it quite a bit more velvety, I would say. He's coming in at 230.5. This is a really stunning snake. This is my male calico bamboo. Really good looking snake. And he's coming in at 318.7. Here's my male pastel calico bamboo. Real stunner. And he's coming in at 430.5. This is my reduced bamboo female holdback. Very reduced pattern. She's coming in at 371.6. Here is my Lemon Blast scaleless head and pastel pinstripe scaleless head female. She's coming in at 293.2. Here's my second Lemon Blast scaleless head female. She's a really high expression scaleless head. And let's see what she's weighing in at. 346.3. Here's my pastel scaleless head, and she hasn't eaten in 2 weeks, and she still looks like she could go another week or two without food. She is really chunky. Let's see what she's weighing in at. 366.0. So this is my little dinker project. We're pretty sure it's just het pied. It could have something else in there. It's really interesting patterned normal. It's really kind of wild looking. She's actually coming in at 311.7. And this is actually the first snake that actually went to the bathroom in her enclosure that I saw for my holdbacks in a whole week. It's pretty incredible. So what I do is I just basically just take a paper towel and remove the waste, and then I just use a spray bottle with diluted F10, and then just kind of spot clean right here. And that's pretty much it. So here's my female lesser bamboo. This is a beautiful blue-eyed leucistic, really nice looking snake. She's weighing in at 352.1. This is my female scaleless head, 50% het caramel albino. And she actually made a mess right on the substrate. It's just real easy to spot clean. Don't even have to really follow it up with F10. And she's coming in at 274.8 grams. Alright, so here's another one. This is my female Lemon Blast bamboo. It's a pastel pinstripe bamboo. And she looks like she made a mess here too, a little bit. And if you notice here, this is a little bit darker. This is almost too much humidity in here. So you really have to watch that it doesn't get too humid in your snake enclosures. And let's see what she's coming in at. 305.6 grams. So another thing I noticed is my reticulated pythons are actually pushing, trying to get out. They are coiled up into this big ball, and they're actually trying to get out. They were sticking their head like right in the corner, trying to get out of the enclosure. And usually it's because the temperature is a little too hot. And retics, what they do is if you feed them, they'll seek out a hot spot that's a little bit hotter. And I have this radiant heat panel on the top that's set to 82, and then after they digest and it kind of passes through their system, then they like to seek out something that's a little bit cooler, typically under 80 degrees. So what I did is I actually adjusted my thermostat to 78 degrees on the hot spot. And you really have to watch retics that that they don't get too hot, because they'll start pushing and then they can really mess up their face. And then there's also an under the tank heat panel. It's just a really small one right over here that's set to 88, and it doesn't really keep the substrate at 88, but it's just something to keep heat from the bottom, and I usually never adjust that one. But you really have to watch, especially if they start sticking their heads in these little corners here, like trying to get out, really pushing. You know, most of the time it's the temperature that's just a little too high. So this is my 6-foot tall incubator for my snake eggs. I actually hatched out ball python eggs in here last year and hopefully some reticulated python eggs this year. I have my thermostat. I just put that in there, the VE100, and turned it on, hooked it all up, set it to 90 degrees, and we should be ready. Hopefully we'll have some ball python eggs here shortly. Okay, so let's switch from snakes over to rats. Let me tell you, you definitely have to stay on top of these rats, at least clean all the bedding once a week, and I'd say going through the whole rack, changing out all the tubs, takes me about an hour, so it's not too bad. And what I do is I go through and I actually top off the water. I'd say probably at least every day, every other day. And what I just use is these gallon jugs of water. I take the top off and I just kind of top them off. I actually just top them off and I just kind of put a little water in. I top them off to where I can actually see the level. If there's any problems, if there's a leak in one of the tubs, you definitely want to see the levels. If they start dropping really fast, you know you have a leak and a possible tub that's flooded, so you definitely want to keep an eye on your levels at all times. Sometimes I'll come in here like 2 or 3 times a day and just do a quick look at the water levels, make sure they're not dropping fast, because that means you have a leak. So the next thing on these rat racks and mice racks, I actually have mice in these 2 levels. The rest of them are all rats. And what I do is I actually top off the food in the back. So all the food are in these hoppers, all in the back. And they go through, I'd say, probably 100 pounds of food every month. It's pretty incredible how much these rats eat. And what I do is I just kind of go through and I push it all to the front. And then I come along with a scoop and I just put it all in this little bit. Now, usually I'd say every week I probably top off about 50 pounds. Well, actually, yeah. So I'm going through about 50 pounds every week. So it's actually 200 pounds every month, which is pretty incredible. Let me show you how I actually filter out all the dust from my food here. This is a Missouri 6F food, and I actually kind of screen out all the dust before I put it in here. Let me show you how I do that. Alright, so this is the food, the Missouri, and what I do is I actually just put it right in this tote, and then I filter it, kind of screen out all the dust with this, and then I fill the racks with this. Alright, so I'm going to show you how I do this real quick. I basically just take the tub and pour the food into it. Pretty easy. And then what I'll do is I'll take this little sieve and I'll just kind of, you can see the dust kind of comes out, put it right in the scoop, and I fill up from there. So before I add any food, I kind of push it all forward, and you can see some of these have more food than others. You can see it easily when you push it all forward, and some of the screen is actually exposed down here. And then what I do is I just take my kind of screened out food and I just kind of run it all along the back, just like this. It's real easy. It doesn't really take a whole lot to fill it up. And it only takes a few minutes and the whole thing is full of food. So I finished filling up the racks, and to give you an idea of how much dust is in the Missouri, this kind of gives you an idea. There's quite a bit of powder left over in that bag, and some people try to recover it, and I go through so much, I just kind of just toss it. So that is the Missouri 6F food that I put in the back of the racks. That's pretty much it for the week. I don't really have to mess with it. And that food is really dusty. I get it all over my clothes. And I'd say it's probably the dirtiest job. I don't mind doing it. It doesn't take very long just to go through and fill them up. But it just gets that dust all over my clothes. So the next thing I do is I actually go through the racks and clean each tub. And I can show you how I do that really quick. And the first thing I do is I actually put clips on all the tubs that have clean bedding. So this is just the one tub for this whole level down here that I keep clean. And all the other ones from last week, what I'll do is I'll actually go through and I'll take all the clips off of all the dirty tubs, and then as I put the clean tubs back in, I'll put a clip on them so I know which one's clean and which one's dirty, just so I don't miss any tubs. And the other thing you have to watch is when you're filling food, you definitely don't want to push a tub out. You don't want the rats getting out. If you get back there and you push a tub, you know, the rats get out, and then you have a crazy time with rats running around your snake room. Okay, so moving the rats from one tub to another, that is the time when most of my escaped rats get out. You really have to be careful. And what I normally do is I open this tub just a little bit just to put one in, and then this one that I want to move them over, I open it a little bit more, and what I do is I just kind of move them over, and rats are really friendly. You really don't have to worry about taking a bite from a rat. I've never actually had a rat bite me. And I kind of grab them by the tail. Some people say it's not really good to grab them by the tail, and I find that for the bigger ones, it's actually best if you can actually let them crawl from one tub to another so you're not pulling on a tail on a heavy rat. But it seems like the tail is okay on a smaller rat. It doesn't really stress them that much. You just have to really watch that none of the rats get out. That's the big thing, because if you get a rat that gets out in here and it starts crawling underneath these racks, let me tell you, that is a nightmare. So for the rat bedding, I actually use this Rocky Mountain softwood screen shavings. It's really the only pine that I found that's kiln dried. It's not too dusty. It's not toxic to the rats. Some of the pine you really have to watch out for. So what I do is I just kind of put my empty tubs here, and then I'll just kind of by hand fill the tubs, and usually I get like a whole stack of 5 tubs. Like as soon as this one's full, I'll put this one on top and then fill that one, and so on and so forth until they're all filled with the shavings. So I filled all these tubs, and this is pretty much what I found to be kind of the optimal amount of shavings. Just a few inches, I would say, maybe 3 inches. And you don't want it too much to where the rats don't have enough room in the tub. And really, the thicker the bedding, the better, because it'll last a lot longer if it's a lot thicker. So then what I do is I just basically put the tub right back in the rack, and then I move the labels over. And this is actually a male and a female. And kind of my organization is I've been putting males and females over here. And as soon as they have babies, then I'll put them over here. And then I'm retiring some of my old males and some of my old females. And it's just kind of this rotation. You really have to kind of get organized. And if they get to the point where they have babies in here, see, this one's pretty fat. You know, these are really pregnant. Close to, this one actually has babies. So this one, actually, what I'll do is I'll move it to another tub, one of the bigger tubs. And here's the big male. And here's another female. And it really helps to have multiple females in case one doesn't have enough milk. And then the other one's kind of cover for. And then the babies, you just basically move them over by hand. It's no big deal. The rats are really good caretakers. I've never had a rat actually eat their own babies. The mice will actually eat their babies, but the rats won't. The only thing you have to worry about with rats is some of the moms don't have enough milk, and they'll kind of get really thin, and some of them can die from not enough milk. But if you have multiple females, it's usually fine. So then for the waste bedding, I usually just dump it out, and then I would say what I've been doing lately is just kind of going through just dumping and filling, and then I would say probably once a month you want to go through and bleach these really good. Make sure they're completely washed out, no bleach in there before you put the new bedding in. So I actually found this little watering can on Amazon, and it works really well to add water to the enclosures, and it's been working really well. So I would highly recommend going with something like this. I used to actually use a pump-up sprayer, and it took forever. So from here, what I normally do is I'll go through and I'll just kind of look at what's going on with some of my snakes, and I can kind of feel, you know, these actually I just worked on. I kind of go through kind of a system where I don't, get overwhelmed with all these tubs all at once, because you could spend all day going through all the tubs. So what I did is kind of split it up for days, so I don't actually do it all on one day. I'm actually at the end of a whole rotation of a cycle. So I go through all of them, and I make sure they have enough humidity in there. Make sure they have clean water. You can tell these, have plenty of humidity. This is they start knocking stuff in the water, and it turns into tea. And then you really have to watch if it gets, if you get a lot of the stuff in the water, and it turns into like a slush from the coconut husk. But this is my pastel spider desert ghost female. I can show you some of my snakes. This is my albino pied male. And these guys, I've pretty much worked on them all the enclosures, so I just go through little by little. They have plenty of humidity, clean water. This is my lesser clown female. And if they didn't have, if I start seeing a lot with I'd say water, that's about half of the cup, I would actually go through and change them. Or if they're dirty, I'll actually replace the little the deli cups in there, and I actually hand wash them all. So let's see. So this one just has one little spot here, and I just kind of spot clean. And these snakes are so incredibly low maintenance. I mean, you just kind of open them up, kind of look at them, and half the time they don't even go to the bathroom. See, this one's a little bit low, so I'd fill it up. And these snakes, they hardly drink. They eat once a week, and sometimes they'll eat once a month. And sometimes they'll go to the bathroom once a month. So this one is a little bit lower. So what I would actually do is, without getting bit here, she's kind of in feeding mode. This is my pinstripe pied female. Just went on food after a really long fast. Look at how small she is. You can definitely tell she's been drinking water. So what I'll do is let me grab a new cup. Put a new cup in there. Let me tell you, these snakes are so low maintenance. It's incredible. And I can just kind of peek in every tub, and it doesn't take that long, and I can just kind of check out the snakes. And for a more thorough clean, what I'll do is I'll actually pick up every snake and kind of pull the tubs out and look at them. So for example, this one is kind of this is my spider pie that has the kind of a stargaze, and you got to really watch this guy. He bit me once and hung on like you wouldn't believe. So this one, I'll actually move that out. I'll actually grab another clean cup, put it in there, and try not to get bit. That guy is crazy. I'll just fill it up, and I'll just kind of go through, and that's kind of my routine. And then I don't even have let's see on my hatchlings. So my hatchlings are a little bit different. I actually just put all new bedding in my hatchlings too, so the humidity is perfect. The water should be clean. But actually, so tomorrow is the cleaning day for my ball python hatchlings, and what I'll do is I feed them, and as soon as they're in a lock, I actually just dump out the water and refill it. And it seems like the hatchlings kind of mess up their water because it's a shallower tub. Here's a pastel bamboo. You can see they just... here's a coral glow. And the water, I mean, I just changed the water just a few days ago, and they're already, they got stuff in the water. But I'm going to feed them tomorrow, so I'm not going to worry about the water. The bedding is fresh, and these guys are pretty much good to go. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is what I do almost every Saturday. People ask me, hey, what are you doing this weekend? It's like, hey, my Saturdays, I am in my snake room having fun. So thanks for coming along. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.